My name is Cullen Smith, and today I'm going to be talking about GMOs and technology and corporate and community farming. Growing up, I didn't really know much about farming, but I do remember in my 8th grade life skills class watching a documentary called Food Inc. And one thing they did talk about was corporate and community farming and the fact that how they play with Monsanto and GMOs. A couple factors that play into that is capital, technology, markets, and government. With capital, it's all about money, so it's what you can produce and what you can bring in to make more of what you have. The technology, anything from John Deere, and when that says also technology, is the GMOs and everything that goes into it. The market is who you're selling to and who wants to sell to you. So whether you're a small farm wanting to sell to a fresh county market, or you're a big one wanting to get with Tyson Chicken or someone that's a bigger brand. A lot of environmental factors play in farming, things such as climate, soil, and relief. So where you're located at when it comes to climate, what type of crops you can grow, whether it be cotton, whether it be soybean. The soil also goes with what type of fertilizer you have, what things go into the soil and what you're able to produce. GMOs and technology are the base, and genetically modified organisms, what they're called. The definition of it is GMOs are products through biotechnology and genetic engineering, and involve genetic modification in which their materials are added and removed to alter the genetic organism. So this goes to plant breeding, and that's where it all starts at, is plant breeding and animal breeding. With plant breeding, soybeans, corn, and cotton is the big market. And with the Monsanto, they've mastered the soybean industry, in which they're able basically to create a monopoly, and they force companies to basically be under them and others to be a part of it. With the corn and cotton business, they basically have what they call as like a secret ingredient, and what they were able to do was mass produce these crops, so they grow at a faster rate and they grow more. With animal breeding, the big things in animal breeding is pigs, cows, and chickens. And if you eat any type of meat or any type of mass produce thing like that, that's where all of our meat comes from: the pigs, the cows, and the chickens. And in the documentary I was talking about, Food Inc., one of the special things that they showed was the pigs and the chickens, and how they were put in these small confinements, and basically the same place where they ate at was the same place where they used the bathroom, they slept. So the environment that they're in isn't as sanitary, and what they do is they speed up the process to where it's basically cut in half their natural growth. And that also goes to the technology, which is the background and everything that they put in the organisms that go into the genetically modified organisms. So the technology is advanced. They have multiple science that work with them, that go into the process of finding basically the ingredients to put in the organism to make sure they grow at a faster rate, and it's expensive. So it's not just the technology that goes into doing it, but what the farmers also have to pay, the price that they have to also use those organisms. Brands like Monsanto and John Deere are the leaders in the industry. As I said, John Deere for technology, anything you need from a tractor to pullers to tillers, and Monsanto, they run the business as far as soybeans, corn, and the cotton business. So my next point I'm going to talk about is corporate farming. Corporate farming is a term used to describe companies that own or influence farms and agricultural practices on a large scale. So these are big brand farms, and they're basically owned under businesses. And how they run them, as I like to say, is basically like a regular business. That's how they have a business plan, and they have a contract. And under that contract, they have to fulfill whatever it is for that year it is, whether it be the crop or whether it be animals, to get through that year. So contracts are the agreements with the buyers. So with that, they have contracts to Tyson, is one of the biggest chicken companies, and they're ones who basically have monopolized the company. As it says, they own 80% of most chicken farms in the country. Large corporations contract them. So as I said earlier, they own them, and they basically run their businesses through them. GMOs, to me, are one of the main sponsors or things that go into the corporate farming, because they're so big and they want to grow crops. Their whole goal is to get the crops out, get them down, and get them ready to be produced, and get them out to the food markets as fast as possible. Family community farms is basically the complete opposite of what corporate farms do. Family farm is generally understood to be a farm owned and or operated by a family. It is sometimes considered to be an estate passed down by or inherited. It contrasts with farms operated as a collective, trust, or non-family corporations or in other institutions, institutionalized forms. So in this case, these are the smaller farms. Their goals are a lot different, and their economics and capital is a lot smaller. So because they're smaller, they're able to be a little bit more versatile versus only being able to farm cotton or corn. They're a lot able to do a lot more versatile things because they're not really contracted or anyone specifically. And their goals are differently. So when I say their goals are differently, back home, famous pizzeria that everyone goes to is called the Lucas Pizza. So what a smaller farm would do is try to get in contact with businesses around the city and try to offer their produce or whatever they have to brand themselves. And that's what the businesses in the city will pride themselves on, being locally grown, and that's how they'll market themselves. So the economic and capital is also different. Their plan isn't as to make as much money because they don't have as much crop. So their goals of being the big brand isn't the same. There's a lot of negatives and positives about the businesses that goes on because smaller farms kind of get the edge, but the corporate farms are the ones that produce more. So smaller farms have to compete with the corporate farms. So the market that they have is a lot smaller. The businesses that they have to reach is a lot smaller. As I said, the mass production is the thing that gets knocked. Because it's mass production, at times they feel that the corporate farms don't really look into the health risks of everything, and they don't really care, and their goal is just to get things out, and if no one gets sick, then they beat the problem. GMOs and pesticides are the main big problem. Scientists have taken deep studies into it, and what they do, they have sprays, anything that goes from seeds, and they're filled chemically, and people have a lot of problems with that. City markets and big businesses, those are actually a positive. So if a city market has something during Saturday back home in Lansing, Michigan, where I'm from, farmers are able to bring their products, whether it be fruits, vegetables, meats, and they're able to bring them in and they'll be sold, and they're more of a quality, healthy type of food. The Lucas Pizza is one of the places that I mentioned earlier that is something that smaller farms do versus bigger brands such as corporate farms who reach out to, say, Tyson Chicken or McDonald's. So that would be one who would be a brand to where they'd be contracted through them. The healthy lifestyle will also be a positive of a small farm. It's more of a family environment, so the risk what they do is they take pride in giving more of a healthy lifestyle, and the money factor, versus corporate farm is more under contract and making sure we have this at this point in time. A family farm really they regulate themselves. A Risky Solution was an article that I read about by William Mosley, and what they did was he visited East Asia and Africa, and to find out the solution, what they did was they thought using big corporate farms would be a way to heal the people. But after scientists did a study and looked into the farms, what he said was they are more at health risk not eating than eating the food that has been sprayed with chemicals in this process. So Mosley believed that going to big corporations would be the solution, but after taking a deeper look into it, the health risk would be something that would exceed them. And he said that people might as well be better off starving than to eat the food that would be chemically filled and processed. So they felt that the risk would be higher for them to go out like that. So what they did was they looked at smaller farms that had low risk, but they had to pay a little bit more. So even though the quality was better, they had to pay more. So early in the semester, we watched a video that was called Back to the Start, and it was a Chipotle commercial. And right here, this is just a little bit of what the point was. So they started the commercial out on a small farm, which is basically family-based right here. You see the pigs, you see the outhouse, you have the small confinement of where it's at. The pigs have space, they're outside in light, and that's complete opposite to what you see right here on the right, where the pigs are stacked up on each other, they're in the dark, and right here you see basically these are pills and you see chemicals, and these are simulations of GMOs and other things that go into these pigs, these cows, and these chickens. And the process that they do, they speed them up to basically get them out. And as it shows right here, they go into the factory right here where they're compounded and they're shipped out. So the goal was to show that the care that goes into it in the small family farms is something that they want to produce. So Willie Nelson here says, nobody says it was easy. I'm going back to the start. So even though it may not be easy, to use the family farms, for them it was beneficial. So genetically modified organisms and technologies have changed the way farmers go about production and force them to keep up with the newest trends. So as I proved myself, I believe that GMOs could be a solution, but right now the health risk for it right now doesn't seem beneficial. So as far as GMOs go, I think basically what they need to do is look at a healthier way to basically go about going with farmers and linking up with community and family farms. Thank you.